We're continuing on a special couple of episodes on legendary Paralympians. Of course, we are into the Paralympics. The Paralympics are on as we speak, and I'm so delighted to welcome our next guest to the show, because I'll say this is a guest we've been trying to get on for quite some time, and it sort of just hasn't worked out in the past, and we finally can make it happen today to learn more about him and his incredible journey through the Paralympics. Across 5 Paralympics, 9 Paralympic medals, across multiple world championships, 15 world championship medals, 2 Commonwealth Games gold medals, multiple world records. This man has done it all, and I'm so excited to learn about all of those and more. It's a pleasure to welcome off the podium today, Matt Levy. Matt, first of all, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really great, Ben, to have to be able to be part of this show and be able to give your listeners a bit more about my journey.
I'm pumped to learn about it, because I want to start off, like, is it odd right now? We're recording this obviously a few months before the Paralympics, and I understand by the time people are listening or watching this, they're on right now. But is it odd for you right now to know there's a Paralympics happening very shortly, and that you're not going to be there? This first time in 24 years, Matt, that you're not going to be at a Paralympics.
Yeah, it certainly is a long time. But I think for me, I guess I was kind of at a stage in my life where I had done it all. I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I just wanted to, I guess, move on and do something different and, learn new things. And I think, I was at a point in my life in 2022 where I just wanted to do something different. And that's, I guess, kind of the feeling that I had when I stopped. And, it's a bit surreal seeing off the 2024 Paralympic team, but really proud, I guess, to see people that I've grown up with, people that I've been in the pool with over many years competing, and it's certainly be different this time around. First time in 5 games that I haven't been there, this being the 6th, so it's certainly going to be exciting to watch.
The amazing thing to think about the last Paralympics that you weren't at, being Sydney, that was kind of the Paralympics, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of almost ignited this fuel, this passion for you to sort of pursue this career. I mean, take us back to the year 2000, Matt, and sort of what it was like watching the Sydney Paralympics and what it was about that kind of set you on this amazing journey that you went on.
Yeah, certainly, the Paralympics in 2000 was the catalyst for me to do what I've done. And I saw people with far worse disabilities than myself in Sydney, and that was, to me, the burning and the fire that really ignited this whole process for me. And it was really just watching in the stands and watching people do their races and do their warm-ups and complete their media mixed zones and all that kind of stuff. And it just really excited me to want to do something more than just swimming laps of a swimming pool. And I was 12, 13 years of age at the time. And I saw we had about, I think, 50 odd people from Australia that represented Australia in the Paralympics in the swimming. And I saw the swimming and a lot of other events, athletics and cycling as well. And I remember as a kid walking around the venues with a day pass and seeing many different sports in one given day. And it was just really cool to be able to see people with similar disabilities, people with different disabilities, but people all trying for their respective sports and trying to live out their own dreams. And it didn't start overnight, I guess, wanting to go to the Paralympic Games. I guess I kind of knew I had to improve a lot, but it was really about, once I realized that goal, once I realized that dream, is working out how I can get there and what I need to do and the steps I need to take, and how much I need to improve to make the next games, which was 2004 in Athens.
Because it must be that incredible thing to think about, that you're there as a spectator and, witnessing all of this, as you said, as a 12, 13-year-old, and that 4 years later you're there, you're competing, you're actually at that. I mean, do you sort of reflect on that period when, as you were saying, you wanted to improve, get to that level where you can be at the next one, and kind of just look back and think, wow, I achieved that in such a pretty short turnaround. Let's be honest. I mean, 4 years to kind of go from watching to competing is a pretty short turnaround.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it was really about looking at, well, what stroke should I aim for? What event should I aim for? And what, I guess, where's the gap, so to speak. And I was, 12, 13 years at the time. And, improving my training sessions from 2 sessions to 5 sessions, a period of time, and just getting fitter helped a lot. But also learning and experiencing life of new people, and giving learning different lessons from different people along the way certainly helped and certainly improved my trajectory. But yeah, it was just about racing and going to carnivals and competing was the biggest thing. And just not kind of panicking and continuing to look at, it's like 3 years to Athens, it's 2 years to Athens. It's like, was looking at, well, how can I improve each day? How can I improve on what I'm doing today to get better tomorrow? And that's kind of how I looked at it. It was really about making sure that I was continuing to get better each day. And I really enjoyed the sport of swimming, even up until I retired, and I still try and swim three or so times a week. I only do about 1K now though in the pool, but it was really about making sure that I first and foremost enjoy what I'm doing. And I think all the other stuff just falls into place when you enjoy something.
I love that you mentioned that, because I did read that fact that despite you being retired from the sport, you still swim. You're still very active out there and do that. Because I know there are some athletes who, the day they hang up whatever their apparatus is or whatever they're doing to retire, they're just like, stuff that. I've spoken to plenty of swimmers on this show who are like, I've not even stepped foot in water since the day I retired. So I like the fact that passion for you, Matt, there is still there, that you still like to get in the pool.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think for me, it's important to keep moving my arms and legs and keep myself active. And for me, swimming started as a therapy. I started at Cerebral Palsy Alliance, which was previously called the Spastic Centre in Sydney. And I started to do therapy there. And that's kind of where it started for me as a rehabilitation exercise. And for me, it feels a lot easier to do things in the water than on land. And for me, that's kind of where it started. And just continue it today.
Were there any other sports outside of the pool that you took part in, and that, could we be talking to you today, Matt, as a 5-time Paralympian in a different sport potentially?
No, I never was really good at any other sport. Like athletics, I tried for a little bit, but tripped over my toes, tripped over my feet, because I'm vision impaired as well as cerebral palsy. Cycling was probably out of the question, so it was probably something like archery. There wasn't a lot of options there. And swimming was just, I guess, a sport that I felt a lot freer in and could do things a lot easier. I just didn't have time to do anything else specifically, but I did like Pilates in the gym and that kind of stuff to help strengthen muscles and the like. But swimming was pretty much the only sport that I was ever good at.
You touched on that period between Athens. Did you find that when you, as you were saying, wanted to improve, do everything that you were touching on before, getting things like coaching, finding access to people who can help you get towards the Paralympics, was there like an after effect from Sydney and the Paralympics? You obviously being in Sydney, you might have had better access than, say, somebody like myself who was in Tasmania at the time. Like, was there kind of like an after effect from those Paralympics being in Australia that you felt helped you on that journey towards your Paralympic career?
I like to say yes, but no, not really. I think we as a country didn't do very well in continuing the momentum and continuing the legacy from Sydney, not just from the Paralympics, but from the Olympics as well. I think there was a lot of things that we could have done better. We could have set up a lot more support around, participation and the trajectory of athletes like myself. It was all really up to my parents to put hand in their pocket to fund me to go on an overseas trip or to go interstate before I even went to overseas and all that kind of stuff. And I think we could have done a lot better as a nation to fuel that participation in sport in general. I think they're trying to do that with Brisbane 2032, but I think it's all about actions more than words. And a lot of the times we do get caught up in, oh, we should do this, we should do that, or put it down on paper, and it never kind of gets done. And I think, Sydney kind of missed that opportunity with, I think, Paralympic participation overall, not just in swimming, is not that great in Australia. We've got like a high portion of people that are in the high functioning category, which is pretty able-bodied, and not a lot of people on the other end of the scale. So I think when I think of Paralympics, I think of people that are a lot less able than myself. And I think they're the people that you really kind of associate Paralympics with. And we just don't have those types of people in Australia, and we don't have, I guess, that pathway at the moment.
Which, this is probably a very loaded question that might not be able to be simply answered, Matt, but how do you change that? Because touching what you're saying there, there's obviously a wide classification when it comes to Paralympic athletes. You know, it's not just you've all got different classifications. There's a variety of different ways of looking at it. But how do you actively recruit people to say, like, hey, you're good at this, let's come into swimming, or hey, you're good at swimming, let's try this? Like, what can you do to try and improve on what you're saying there, so that by Brisbane, we're not asking this question in 10 years' time of a legacy. It's exactly what you're saying we need to be able to do.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to nurture the talent. Just because someone might not look like they have potential now, they potentially could have that potential in a year's time. Like I remember one of my colleagues in 2004 Athens Games, he was about 10 seconds off qualifying in 100 meters butterfly before the Games trials. He got that down to what he needed to do to qualify for the Games, and then he ended up winning a silver medal at the actual Games. So if you if you had people looking at him 10 months, 12 months down before even the trials were going to be raced, you'd say, oh, he's no hope. There's no point investing any money in him because he won't even be close to qualifying. But I think it's not so much looking at, I guess, what the person can do now, but looking at what that potential could be if you actually invested into them, and not so much money, but more about time, effort, whether it's just having a coffee catch up once a month, just having a chat and being like a normal human being. I think that's the biggest thing, I guess, we can do. And as adults and as human beings, I think it's anyone ever only thing that anyone wants to do is really be connected and be communicated to. And I think it's really important to have that as a starting point anyway in participation. And we have like, I think 2.1 million people in this country that have a disability or disclose they've got a disability, obviously differing levels of disability. But it's about really kind of getting them excited about community sport first and foremost. And I think that's the biggest win in getting them involved in sport in some way, shape or form, whether it's swimming or athletics or whatever it is. And then, working out whether they have that burning desire to want to go do it further. But I think getting people involved, whether it's through the NDIS money that they have or not, or whatever it is for them, it's getting them involved in health and fitness first and foremost.
Great way of looking at it. And let's be honest, Matt, we want them in the pool, right? Because swimming's where it's at. Swimming's the cool sport, you know?
Pretty much. But I didn't want to be biased, considering we're on a podcast called Off the Podium.
we like being biased on this show. It's fine. I'm a suck up, Matt, so it's fine. We'll play the swimming card today. Just before we get to the Athens experience, you touched on before about sort of working out your strokes and kind of seeing what suited for you. you obviously won medals in multiple strokes, medley you were quite good at. Like, I mean, how do you discover kind of what you're good at? Is it more of a case of you just try every stroke, see what works, or do you just enjoy one more than the other when you're doing the countless laps of a pool every single day?
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of working out what my body could do better or best. And I guess having cerebral palsy, it takes a lot longer for your body to understand how to do a certain stroke, and you to be able to, I guess, learn the motor skills for it. And freestyle was just, I guess, the most natural stroke for me, being overarm. And yeah, just kind of went from there. Backstroke was never really great at. Breaststroke I could do, butterfly I could do. So yeah, my IAM kind of suffered with not really too much of backstroke quality in there. But yeah, I think from doing so much freestyle, because as in swimming we do a heavy base on the freestyle load. So I think that's probably was naturally my better stroke, because you could do that a lot more in training. Like when you're doing 3, 4, 5Ks, you do probably 80% of it freestyle. Yeah, I certainly like the breaststroke for a bit of mixing it up. And yeah, fly at times in my career. And yeah, there was definitely varying different experiences in different Paralympic Games when I had a few different events there and different events I kind of dabbled in.
It's fascinating to hear that. We had Michael Edgson on the show last week and asked him a similar question, and for him, his weakest one was breaststroke. He said, like, I just, for the life of me, couldn't do breaststroke. Everything else I absolutely love, but not for me, breaststroke. So I love kind of asking that to swimmers. And I've got to say, I find Paralympians are a much more versatile group of athletes. You're dabbling in more strokes, I feel, than our able-bodied, our non-Paralympians. They just stick to one lane, it kind of seems. So I'm saying Paralympians, better athletes, let's be honest. Come on.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably not afraid to look at what other opportunities and take a risk every now and again, I think is probably the biggest thing.
Athens is a pretty special Paralympics to have as your first, the home of the Olympic movement and everything along those lines. And obviously I realise that Athens 20 years later has got a real negative connotation around it of the financial issues and everything that happened with Greece and everything, but it was still a special Games. When you're there for the Paralympics, was there still a vibe on the ground that kind of, it was a special feeling being in a place like Athens in Greece? And were you able at your first Paralympics to soak up things like that, or were you so focused on the job at hand that maybe that wasn't something in reflection that you were kind of paying attention to?
Yeah, it's probably more like the latter. Didn't really focus too much on the whole experience. It was really in awe of everything, and that's like everything was like so cool and so amazing that you kind of didn't really kind of take everything in as best you can. And I think for me that was definitely the case. It was yeah, I took it in as much and as well as I could, but it was yeah, I didn't probably appreciate it as much as I should have. But it was certainly amazing. We saw the Acropolis, and we had a training camp in Rome and Singapore beforehand. So yeah, it's really, really amazing and really eye-opening experience. And I think because it was my first Games, didn't really know what to expect. It was like, I should do this, I should do that. And like in the village, as you probably would have heard with a lot of your podcast guests, it's a very big place. It's like a bit like Disney World. There's a lot of things happening. You can spend all night doing this and doing that. And yeah, back then, obviously, no social media, no Instagram, no Facebook.
Glory days.
No mobile phone. We had like a Telstra phone card to call home. So yeah, there was, I guess the world was our oyster in terms of the village was where you hung out and where you socialized, and the food hall and all that stuff. You didn't go back to your room and turn on Netflix on your iPad or your mobile phone and sit hours watching a TV show or whatever. You got out and about and did stuff. So I think
you had to be social, Matt. You had to talk to people in real life. Like, we've lost that ability, haven't we?
Yeah, I think in 2008, I think it was still pretty similar.
Yeah,
Twitter and Facebook just come on board then, and yeah, we had mobile phones, so that was, I guess, a little bit different. But yeah, there was no social media and that kind of stuff, so it was a little bit different again.
Yeah.
China was a bit obviously restricted in any case with a lot of the communication.
2008 is always at Olympics that I remember as being the first one that I was able to watch it on my phone. It was very like limited, but I remember Channel 7 at the time had like a pay like $5 and they select events there, which I remember being out at dinner with my partner at the time. And I think one of our rowing gold medals was on the event, and I had to watch it. And I was on my, it was modern. It was like, wow, I'm watching the Olympics on my phone. Like that was 2008, but obviously now we're very much used to it. But it's weird when you bring that up and you talk about those things that for you and I, Matt, doesn't seem that long ago. But we've got listeners right now who weren't even born back then who are probably going like, what? Dinosaur ages? What are you talking? You didn't have a phone? How did you live?
Yeah, definitely.
It's crazy to think that. I mean, just on that though, like outside of the pool and experiencing those sort of things, do you get into like pin trading, uniform swapping? Are you going around the village like guessing the sport of the athlete, bumping into, you know, big names from other sports? Did you do much of that over your 5 Paralympics and kind of, you know, soak that side of the stuff in?
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of pin trading, and I think my first 2 games, and a lot of uniform swapping and stuff as well. I think, yeah, they're definitely the first games, and second games there's a lot of walking around and burning up the energy of the legs. But then you get to your third games and realize that it's probably not helping your performance that much by walking around and trying to find a Usain Bolt or or whoever to kind of swap a shirt from and that kind of stuff. But I think towards probably 08, 09, I kind of got a bit more smart about what I was doing and the recovery side of things, and tried to, as we kind of, how we coined the phrase quite often in the Paralympics, of getting off the ride. It's like a bit of a roller coaster. You get on a ride and don't get off type thing, and you can destroy your preparation over 4 years of preparation by going out and trying to find and swap stuff and do all that kind of stuff. So it was really about making sure that you tone that down. So I think it took me probably 2 games to work out that and make sure that I kind of wasn't getting too invested in this pin swapping and the uniform swapping, and make sure I kind of toned that down a bit. And 2012 was probably my best games in terms of my individual swims, where I won 3 bronzes, a silver and a gold at the 1 games, which is pretty cool. But I think that was really about learning from I wouldn't say the mistakes from the previous 2, but more the lessons along the way of the previous 2, so Athens and Beijing, and it helped me in good stead for 2012.
You've just uncorked the secret there, Matt, to all our Olympians and Paralympians listening to this podcast. Next Olympics and Paralympics, stop pin trading, you win more medals. Done.
Yeah. I'll send you the bill. Send them the bill.
Please do. You know, add it. That better be the title of your next book. You know, like "Stop Pin Trading, Win More Medals" by Matt Levy. There you go. You're welcome. You are welcome. But actually, on that though, like outside of the pool, of the 5 Paralympics, what was your favorite in terms of just the overall experience besides the competition? So medals aside, success aside, just the experience of being at a Paralympics. Do you have a favorite?
Athens is probably the biggest, the favorite of the 5, just because it was the first games. It was, I guess, the spiritual home of the Olympics, and just the whole kind of culture behind it. That was probably the pick of the 5, but they're all like different for different reasons. But definitely the first one was really cool.
And 5 very unique ones too. If you take every single one individually, obviously Athens, as you said, spiritual home of the Olympics, big deal. Beijing at the time, China, obviously it was a big deal having an Olympics in China. London, iconic games. Rio had its issues. Tokyo obviously had its issues. So like it's kind of just each of those. And am I doing my maths correct that you went to 3 different continents of 5 Paralympics? So 2 in Asia, 2 in Europe, 1 in South America. So that's not a bad, tick off. If you do a scratch map of all the places you've been in the world, Matt, that's not a bad way of doing it.
It's not a bad spread, yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I don't know if you've watched on, I guess it's going off track a bit, but if you've watched the movie on Netflix. I think it's called Shark in Paris, or
No, I haven't.
yeah. So it's a new movie that's out on Netflix about a shark that's in the sands in
Okay.
Paris.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty cool to watch.
I mean, I've got so many questions on that. How does a shark get in the sand, Matt? Like, is this a horror movie? Like, I mean, I need to watch it now.
Yeah. Check
Targeting
it
it
out.
for the Olympics, basically. Like, don't go in there. Five finals you make on debut. Again, we've got to point out you're 17 in Athens. Like, you're very young. But did you leave Athens hungry for more? Were you disappointed not to come away from the medal? I mean, how, again, 20 years on, how do you reflect on those first ones and the performance from Athens?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think back 20 years, but I think, I was disappointed not to get a medal. I think some of my teammates got medals and that kind of stuff. So you always want to get in with the in crowd. And I guess I was disappointed for myself because I did do PBs. I did do, improvement from heats to finals and trials and all that stuff. But I just definitely wanted more for myself, but it was definitely a great experience from what I could recollect. I think I came fifth. I think my best result in Athens, which was pretty respectable.
Great result, yeah.
And I guess you kind of a little bit. You're pretty close to the medals, but not that close. But yeah, so it's sort of like you have that hunger and that burning desire, and I guess that's kind of, for me, I kind of saw that improvement in me, and obviously that's kind of why I continued on.
And I love hearing that because often it's disappointment, failure that leads you on to more success because it makes you hungrier, drives you to sort of go towards that, which, I mean, takes us to Beijing. You get your first gold there in the 4x1 medley relay. And I was watching another interview you had done not long after Tokyo, and you'd sort of talked about the feeling of winning a gold and a medal in a relay, because in such an individual sport, it's rare that you get those opportunities to kind of have teammates and do that in a way that way. So, I mean, I also read on your website that was the highlight of your career, that first gold was one of the highlights of your career. So, again, that moment of winning that gold in Beijing, I mean, must have been an absolutely incredible feeling.
Yeah, it was definitely, I guess, ticked off a lot of boxes, and we don't all get an opportunity to win medals or win a gold medal, but I think it was really cool to be part of a team and part of that unique experience. And I think for me, it was really turning point in my career because I didn't do that well at Athens individually. And it was really kind of a catalyst to really do things slightly differently from then on, and kind of approach my training with the mindset of continuous improvement and wanting to continually improve on each little thing that I do, not just look at that big goal at the end of the rainbow and kind of try and strive for that. It was really about making sure that I was improving with each session, improving with each competition. And it was definitely a big catalyst to, I guess, I think success in the last three games that I went to. But it was certainly a really pivotal moment in my career and something that I'm really proud of, that first gold medal.
And you talked about then sort of going into London, changing a few things up, and ultimately it works. You leave with 5 medals, your biggest haul of all of them, a gold, a silver, and 3 bronze, which one thing I've always wondered from our guests on this show who have had a very successful career with multiple medals, that I can sit here and read stats and go, you've won 9 Paralympic medals, all this kind of stuff. But like, as somebody who's so competitive and is so driven and everything, like, is it like an addiction when you all of a sudden are winning multiple ones? So one's great in Beijing, you get another one in London. By the time you're up to like number 5, are you just like, oh, I want more, like keep giving me more? And then, you just, that helps drive that hunger to keep on going?
It's interesting. I haven't really thought about it that way, but I think for me, it's always been about self-improvement as opposed to the medals, because at the end of the day, you can't control what your competitors are doing. You can't control how they're training and what they're going to do in the race, but you can control what you do and how you react and what the actions that you take. So I think for me, it was always important to I guess, control the controllables and make sure that I was doing what I could do with what I've got and do it to the best of my ability. And I think for me, that was always the key. It was never about winning medals. It was never about world records or any of that. It was always about how can I do this better than I've ever done before? And then at the end result, hopefully can be potentially a medal. But if I can continually improve what I'm doing and continually improve how I'm doing it, then the end result will be whatever it is. But at least I'll be happy with what I end up with.
Great way of looking at it. I think that's a perfect way of explaining it. And I'd always wanted to ask that addicting question, but it's sort of backtracking and contradicting myself with that question, Matt. Again, as I constantly talk about on this show, the stories behind any performance at an Olympics or a Paralympics, you could have the same joy winning a gold as you might have finishing fifth, as you mentioned in Athens. Like, as long as you're achieving, as you're saying, your personal goals and your targets, it's all about kind of, I guess, balancing feelings and vibes and everything that you get from respective events, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's, I think at the end of the day, I guess I do a bit of motivational speaking, and I usually end my speech with, we arrive in this world with nothing. We leave with nothing, but we have all these experiences and life lessons along the way that we learn. And I think it's, whether it's sport, whether it's business, whatever it is, it's always about learning and doing better for ourselves. And I think the richness in life is not the money, it's not the houses, it's not the wealth, it's the lessons and the learnings that we learn. I think it's no different in sport. It's really about the experiences that we learn along the way that make it so successful.
Great way of, again, looking at it. And we'll touch on your motivational speaking a little bit more shortly. The one actually question, I don't know if I've ever had an opportunity to ask this to a Paralympian who went to London. A lot of people remember the iconic, the Meet the Superhumans campaign that the BBC did in the lead up to that. And just so amazing. Like, just one of my absolute favorite advertising campaigns in sport, anything I've ever seen in my life. Was there almost like a different vibe then in London? Because, it was obviously so successful, put a whole set of eyes on the Paralympics that had maybe never been seen before. I mean, did you kind of feel that it was a little bit different in the after effects of that campaign at all?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a large extent with London was the social media and the marketing that was a lot bigger, and the purse strings for broadcasting was a lot bigger as well. So they were both all that kind of compilated into the effects that we saw in London, and it was one of the first games that had, I guess, that big presence of social media and broadcasting. So it certainly helped amplify the message of the Paralympics and what it's all about, and that understanding of we're not just people with disability, that we're people that are just like anyone else, that we might do things slightly differently, and also showcasing obviously the remarkable stories of Paralympians as a whole as well. And I think definitely the marketing and the media were definitely two catalysts for that.
And I can imagine that you've seen that transpire here in Australia too, because, the coverage then in this side of the world, I mean, obviously, again, we're recording this before Paris, so we can't really touch on too much on Channel 9's coverage as we're watching it right now. But I know at least in the lead up, it's obviously been very, very strong. But what Seven did during Tokyo, Rio, like, it just keep getting amplified and amplified. And I'm quite good friends with Joanna Griggs, and she often will talk about how the favorite thing she ever has done in her sporting, broadcasting career is the Paralympics. She absolutely loved doing it and loved Tokyo and everything along those lines. So, I mean, what's that been like to you to see that improvement of coverage in Australia, that the Paralympics are nearly on par now in terms of the Olympics, in terms of the coverage and attention that they're getting each time around that we do get an Olympic cycle?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really great to see. And I think it's really amazing to be able to continually push the stories of Paralympians and their journeys and what they're able to do in life, because it's really about, the biggest thing is about understanding, and people understanding what Paralympics is and what we can do, not what we can't do. And I think by sharing the messages on primetime TV and sharing, I guess, the journey of the Paralympics and Paralympians on TV during the games and post games is certainly helpful in that regard. And a little bit off topic, but employment in Australia is pretty bad from a disability perspective, and certainly something like the Paralympics helps amplify that and sends a message to employers that we don't have 10 heads. We are definitely employable, and we definitely have the skills. I guess I've been one of the ones that's probably struggled with that in the past with gaining employment, and certainly the Paralympics certainly helps amplify some of that, and so helps dampen the negative connotations around that as well.
And I can imagine that a lot of what you do now with all the boards that you're involved in, of course, a lot of the great work that you're doing post-retirement, a lot of your efforts involved in that is to increase that prominence still and employment and kind of help spread the word exactly of what you were just saying there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's really important to share my experiences and share what I've learned. I guess people can choose to listen to it or not, like they can do on any podcast, but it's really about making sure that I'm sharing what I've learned and my lessons along the way, that hopefully if it can change one person's opinion and perspective, then I think my job's done. And similarly with my books, it's all about, it's not about selling books. It's not about selling my story. It's about giving people a different perspective and a different understanding, and sharing my journey, and hopefully part of my journey and lessons helps change people's perspective along the way.
I very much hope that maybe one day we might get a listener, Matt. So I appreciate you mentioning that quickly in that there. We'll see. Fingers crossed that it'll happen one day soon. Two events I just want to quickly touch on before we get to some of the other, as I said, your book, your motivational speaking, things like that. Rio, the bronze that you get in the individual event. I just watched it just before this interview, and just watching you motor down in that final 50 and then just get it at the end. You're touching it. You're pumped. You're so excited. Everything along those lines. I mean, how does that rate in all your 9 medals? Because I mean, I think the ones I've seen, like you were amped up. That was one that looked like that meant a lot to get that bronze medal right at the death.
Yeah, that was definitely one that I really wanted to touch the wall for, and it was definitely a hard fought bronze. And I think they're the ones where you learn a lot about yourself and a lot about what you, how you can dig deep. And that was definitely one of the ones where I had to dig deep. I hadn't had the best of meets. I didn't probably reach the goals that I wanted to reach at those games. To come away with that bronze medal was definitely one that was hard fought, and one that I thought that was really something that I'm really proud of.
The other one, I mean, we talked on your first goal being in a relay, your last goal also a relay, the 4x100 freestyle relay in Tokyo. And again, watched that just before this interview, and it's just, I love events where you got a diverse group of people. Like we see it, say, in the Olympics with like the mixed relays, and then obviously in the Paralympics, we've got many different categories that you're able to go in. And the way it, from an audience perspective, it's very strategic to watch. So when you've got someone like Rowan going out at the beginning and just absolutely steaming it out there to build up this massive lead. But then if I'm not mistaken, then the Italians had their S10 swimmer coming at the end. So it's all meant to balance out, right, in terms of, going first, going that. But I love just watching the lead that he pulls in. And then when you get in the pool as the third leg, and then you're just motoring around right now then to set it up for Ben, who holds on, world record, everything along those lines. I mean, tell us about that race. I mean, what a way to end your Paralympic career, another gold, and just the excitement that must have come with that gold and the world record and everything with that.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. And we definitely had a plan from the get-go to have a handy lead and hold it. And it certainly worked. And it's tough, I guess, being like those lower classes, like 7 and 8. because you get a bit of the wash from either side of the other competitors. And I think it's really important to somewhat protect your lower classes just so you don't get too much of the wash. And we try to do that by having a big lead at the beginning of the race. And that might not have happened if they had put their 10 at the beginning, for example. It would have been pretty close most of the way, but they just plan their race differently. But yeah, it was really amazing to be able to share it with those guys, and they're all really great friends, and really have some great memories with them. And we were looking forward to that race for a while, and before COVID hit and all that kind of stuff. And it was really good to for it to come off the way it did, because it was certainly a really close and hard fought race.
Are you aware of the order in which your competitors are sending their swimmers? Like, do you have to, like, as Team Australia, submit this is the order, or you're not aware until you're on the blocks and you're saying, oh, there's 6 swimmers going first and their 10's going to be saved to last?
See, we don't know like what the other competitors, what order they'd be in. We know what order we're going because obviously we've talked about it, but you'd only know the other team's order when the public start list or the finals list comes out. You'd know then, but obviously you can't really plan too much based on that. But yeah, so it's really basically up to what your order is that you would know, and then that's pretty much it.
So when you then go in as the third leg in that relay and you kind of see the lead that's built up, like what's going through your mind, Matt, on those blocks just before you're about to jump in and Will's about to touch for the changeover? Like, is it still the same strategy? Has things slightly changed? Oh, we've got a bigger lead than I thought. Like, kind of what's going through your mind at that point?
Relays is always about swimming your own race and making sure that you know what you're doing, and making sure that you're focusing on what you can do. Because a lot of the times in the relays you can get caught up in all the hype, and obviously if you're coming in third, you can still hear the crowd and the roar of the crowd, and you seem to focus on like making sure that you're not going to do a false start and making sure that they touch the wall before you dive in and all that stuff. So it's really about focusing on all the little things that make up your swim, because you're one part of the swim, but you're a very important part of the swim. If you stuff it up somehow, it's a bit detrimental to the rest of the relay. And yeah, it's really about trying to swim your own race.
Did you know at that point that was going to be your last Paralympics? Like, had you obviously you didn't really sort of announce your retirement till after Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, but like, had you at that point kind of thought like, this is it, I'm not going to go to Paris, but we'll just keep that on the down low right now, and I'll talk about that later on?
Yeah, I think, for me, it was definitely, I probably thought about it a little bit, like, because of the short runway to Paris. There was only 3 years between Tokyo and Paris. But yeah, I think I wanted to complete a uni degree and that kind of stuff. So I did all that. And then once that kind of finished and started work and that kind of thing, it made it kind of an easy decision. And for me, I finished on a high, and not all athletes get that opportunity. So there wasn't much of a discussion in terms of going on to a 6.
And in terms of the Commonwealth Games, sort of in between those experiences, obviously, retire after Birmingham, but just quickly on the Gold Coast, to be able to win a gold and kind of have that at home and everything that brought about it. I mean, can you sort of compare the Commonwealth Games of 2018 to any of the Paralympics at all, being in home, even though it's obviously not quite a Paralympics, it's a Commonwealth Games? Yeah,
definitely. Events at home are really special, and Commonwealth Games is really amazing from that sense. It was a home major meet, and to win gold in front of a home crowd, and to be able to compete with friends and family, and all that kind of stuff was really amazing. And I guess the atmosphere and the event's slightly different because it's Commonwealth Games, not Paralympics, but it's still really amazing to be able to compete in front of your home crowd in such a big event.
What's it like in an outdoor pool compared to an indoor pool? Athens was an outdoor pool, Gold Coast an outdoor pool. I mean, is there a preference as a swimmer that if you get an outdoor pool, it's fine, or does it make much of a difference?
Yeah, from the weather perspective, it does. and if you get a bit of a breeze, it's a bit chilly. But I think most pools these days are indoors for major competitions, just because you can control the weather, you can control um, the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I guess my preference would be indoors, but I've swum in both. So
I always fascinated when they do an outdoor pool. Like, there's just something it adds to it. You know, it's unique, isn't it? You know, like it's
no, definitely.
Obviously post-retirement though, Matt. I mean, you're involved in so many great things, but the two I really wanted to touch on, I mentioned your motivational speaking. Was this something that kind of was always in the cards? Like, you'd sort of always had a passion for this, to be able to sort of give back to, I guess, the community and help out with other people?
Yeah, I think I always, I guess, had a inkling to do something like that. And I think for me, I grew up with parents that gave me all the opportunities to do what I wanted to do, and instilled, I guess, that values and beliefs in me. And I think, just kind of sharing my story and sharing my experience, I really enjoy doing, because I think it's really important that we all learn from each other. And that's kind of where it started with the motivational speaking, and I kind of tie it to a bit of a framework around mindset, perseverance, and teamwork and that kind of stuff, that kind of ties in well with when I'm speaking to businesses and the like as well, because it's all kind of relatable. And then the book ties in really nicely, because it's similar kind of framework that I talk to in my motivational talks. So can sell a couple of books, do a keynote talk, and it's all kind of the same, all talking about the same theme, which is good. Really, it's just about sharing my journey and sharing my lessons, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. And I think it's really a good, for me, it's always important to share what I've learned with others.
And on that, you mentioned the books. I'm going to bring up the books because I think when you and I a couple of years ago were trying to get it to work and everything, I think it was around about the time you released your first book. I believe you got 3 now. So it's obviously a bit of a bug that you've kind of got there with the books. I mean, tell us about this experience becoming an author and kind of everything along those lines, because it is an achievement to write a book. It's on my bucket list. I haven't done it yet. So to write 3, you're doing well.
It was pretty cool. I think the self-published route is quite difficult. Obviously, it's a little bit costly to purchase the print off the books and that kind of stuff, and to know what you want to write about and know how you want to write it is important. But for me, I think my first book was more a generalized view of what I've done and how I've done it, for general populace. And the second book was a kid's book, so it spells out my framework, which talks to goals and mindset and the like, but is geared to kids. So your 7 to 12-year-olds. And the book I just released last year, it talks to my success framework, but is geared to that middle management. So those emerging leaders, those leaders that are just starting out, and being able to hone in on some of those skills and using some of the experience that I've built up over the years. So they're all slightly different, but they're all kind of sharing my journey and sharing my lessons along the way.
So what's number 4 then, Matt? What's the 4th one? Surely you're thinking about it. Don't tell me you're not thinking about the 4th book already.
I haven't really come up with a kind of a theme or anything as yet, but I think, I'm really enjoying sharing my journey and sharing my lessons through my books and through the motivational speaking and the board stuff that I do. So I think I'll do that for a bit longer and see where that kind of leads.
Fantastic. Well, for people who want to buy the book, to get you on board for a motivational speech, plug away, Matt. Where can people find out more, and where can people reach out to you to get you?
Yeah, so www.mattlevy.com.au is my website. But if failing that, you don't remember that, just type in Matt Levy in Google, and you should be coming up with my website. It's one of the first 3 things that come up in Google. But more than happy to talk at businesses, schools, club nights, whatever's going. I'm not too fussed. Yeah, totally happy to share my journey and share my experience with others.
Well, I've absolutely loved having you here today, Matt, to learn about your experiences. I mean, I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface. So I want you to write a fourth book because there's still so many great things for you to talk about. But I'm so glad that we're finally being able to do this and to learn about everything. And I'm going to wish you all the best of luck with everything that you're doing, all the great things that you're involved in right now. And fingers and toes and everything crossed that this journey and everything that what we said at the beginning goes on towards Brisbane, and we can keep doing everything that we're trying to do to make everything related to your career in the Paralympics expand even further in this country and around the world.
Yeah, no, it's very well said.